What does she do? I do everything. I move everything.
Hey guys, I'm back with another video. I received a lot of requests on going more in depth with my Illustrator tutorials by talking you through the steps instead of just having words here and there occasionally. So that's what we're going to do today. And before we jump into the tutorial, I just want to take a little bit of time out to explain the tools that I'm using because I'm not sure if everyone who is watching is familiar with how to use the tools. I am going to click the pen tool. Keyboard shortcut is the letter P, and usually when you click it, the fill is white and the stroke is black or whatever color you were previously using. And we do not need a fill right now, so we're going to change that to none or transparent. And I usually make my pen color a bright color, so I'm going to keep this bright blue. And I only do that just so you can see the blue lines over the black lines, because if you're using two black lines, you're going to get confused, or at least I will. So I'm going to show you how to use the pen tool now. Wherever you're starting your sketch, just right click or just press your mouse pad and you now have a anchor point. There's a little dash line or subtraction symbol when you hover over your anchor point. That will just delete the anchor point. And so plot your anchor point down, and now you have a point, and you can now place another point wherever you would like. It's like using a real pen for the most part. So your next line or your next anchor point, place it wherever you like, and you still have another straight line, and you could plot that anywhere. But if you want to make a curved line, you are going to right click or press your mouse pad, and before you let your finger up, you just drag the line however you see fit for the curve that you want, and then you release. And now your pen tool, after you make a curved line, it's going to automatically want to make another curve, and in some cases it may work, in other cases it may not. If you do not want to keep a curved line, I just simply click my anchor point again, and I now have a straight line. But I want to make another curved line, so that's what I'm going to do. And if you are done with your lines and you want to get rid of this extra line, you could just click the selection tool. That is the black arrow, and your lines are now one path. And with the selection tool, you can move your whole path. If you want to adjust something, like I think that this point it's a little too aggressive, so we're going to go with our direct selection tool, keyboard shortcut A, or the white arrow, and you could click your anchor point, and there will be a little circle, and that circle just lets you smooth out your line. It also, you could click on a path, and it'll just move the path in between two anchor points. You can also click on your handle. Now when you make curved lines with the pen tool, there will be a handle, and you can make more adjustments to how aggressive your curve is. So these are pretty much the three tools that we will be using. You are going to need a reference image. I grabbed two swimsuit images, front and back, from Shein, and make sure that they have good quality so you can see the details in the swimsuits. You're also going to need a croquis. that has vertical and horizontal lines. These lines are for symmetrical purposes. So we're going to click the pen tool, change the fill to none, and the stroke to a bright color. And you're also going to need to pull the image that you are referencing closer to where you are drawing so you can see. So with the pen tool, we're just going to plot our anchor points in the center of our croquis. And I'm just doing like a rough estimation on where that deep V lands. But the beautiful thing about this is if you need to make adjustments, you can. So your first sketch doesn't have to be completely perfect. It just has to be good enough to where when you make adjustments, you don't just feel like you need to start completely over. So here I'm just adjusting my points in the neckline. And you're literally just tracing the body with the shape of the swimsuit in your mind. And I feel like her torso is like extremely long. So you can, when you're tracing things, you don't have to follow your croquis body shape to the T, especially if you feel like it's going to compromise your design. After you've done a rough sketch of the first side or half of your swimsuit, you are going to go into stroke, and here's where you will make adjustments. So you could change the weight, and I always round and corner my caps, and if it isn't round enough for you, you could use the white arrow and you can make your points a little bit more curvy. But once you feel like your swimsuit is in perfect condition and it's ready to be reflected, this is when you select the black arrow and you click your swimsuit, and then you Control C to copy and Control F to copy directly on top of what you drawn. And then you're now going to go into your toolbox and grab your reflection tool. When you grab that, a little circle that looks like a compass will pop up, and you just press and drag that to the center of your croquis, and just click down anywhere around the first half of the swimsuit, and it will rotate and reflect to the other side of your croquis. Now once that is done, there is where you will make any additional adjustments, like sliding the swimsuit to the right a bit more, or if the outfit is symmetrical, like just on the side, that's where you will make those adjustments. But here I'm just fixing up the crotch a bit and just making it make more sense, and making sure her lips, are completely covered. If you wear swimsuits, if you know, you know, okay? And for manufacturing purposes, if your crotch of the swimsuit looks extremely tiny, that's exactly how they're going to make it unless you give them measurements for how wide you want to be. Since we have two sides of the swimsuit but they are not together, you now have to join your points where they connect. So for the crotch, I just have to make a small adjustment to where the points are overlapping each other, and you just highlight it with the white tool. Just highlight it, go to Object, Path, Average, both, and then click OK, and then go back to Object, Path, and then press Join. And now you see it's just one continuous line. You also have to do that to the top of the swimsuit. So with the white arrow again, just highlight that center point, object, path, and average. Both? Okay. Highlight it again, object, path, join. And now you have one swimsuit all together. And now I'm going to copy it and move it off of my croquis just to get a look at it. And right now, to me, it looks super weird. So here I'm just trying to make like small adjustments, like the underarm hole, it just looks mad wide, and then the hips just look really weird. So I'm just making it a little bit longer and dragging the hip rise out towards the same area where my underarm point is. But really, that's all just preference. Once you've made all of your adjustments to the full swimsuit and it looks acceptable to you, now you can go into detail. So here I'm just going to draw the back of the swimsuit and just get that little peekaboo from the back. Just get that straight, and you can do one of two things. You could just copy what you just drew, or you could just draw a new one on the other side. And to copy it, you go to object, transform, and reflect after you copy it. And you just drag it to where you need it to go and play with it so it lines up to the swimsuit correctly and the line isn't sticking outside of it. And then once you get the back looking right, you can do the same thing to the top if necessary, but now I'm just going to make it into a live paint. So highlight everything, go to object, live paint, make, and you are now able to color the inside of your swimsuit. And here you can adjust the color of the outline of it. So to get that folded over line, when you sew a swimsuit, most times you sew the elastic to the edges of the leg holes and you fold it over. So that is what I'm doing now. Well, I'm not sewing it, but what I'm doing now is copying the swimsuit that I've adjusted and made the back to and releasing it from live paint. And I'm doing that because I want to make sure that my lines are as symmetrical as possible to the base of the swimsuit. And after you copy that and delete everything else around it other than the leg holes, that is when you can drag it to the swimsuit and begin to make those lines. And you will also need to adjust the weight of the stroke because it is an inside line. I don't like for my lines on the inside of a sketch to be the same weight as the outline of it because it just looks weird, and I want to make sure that you understand that these two lines are different. On the top of the swimsuit, I am going to use my white arrow and click all the points along the top of the swimsuit so I could just copy and paste it. And here's usually if it's just a regular O neckline, it's like perfect, but since it is a deep V, it's kind of throwing me off. Like, I don't like the vibe of it all. So, and I'm just going to stretch it out by grabbing a corner of the box and dragging out to where I feel is a good point. Really, doing a sketch like this, you have to use a lot of discernment, or your own judgment for it to make sense, you know, because it's not going to be perfect the first time around. Like, some processes work better for certain things, but you can't use the same process for everything that you do. So apply the same stroke properties to the top and the armholes as you did the crotch, because you want everything to look consistent. Okay, so after you get all of the inside lines, now when you click on some of mine are not connected, so I'm just going to highlight everything, and you could do Command G to group, or you can go to Object and select Group. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm also going to add a layer. I really should have been adding layers from the very beginning, but I forget a lot of times. But we're going to name this layer Stitch Line. And here we are going to make a stitch line in the swimsuit image. Where is the image? I done lost the image, y'all. Oh, layer 1. Okay. So in the image, you can't really see clearly the stitch line, but right here, I feel like it's a double stitch line. Usually that's what happens when you serge something or use an overlock machine. So we're just going to go with that assumption. And if you don't want to go off the picture, you could just look at your own swimsuits that you have. But if you're using this tutorial to digitally sketch something to send to a manufacturer or a seamstress or a pattern maker, you need to know what kind of stitches and details you want on the swimsuit specifically, so when you send it to somebody, they make it exactly how you want. Or you could just let them use their professional knowledge and experiences to create what you sent to them. Let them do that, because they probably know better than you. No tea, no shade. So we're going to do the stitch lines. The stitch lines can go either inside of this line or on either side of it. I'm not really sure what I want to do yet, because I need to make my stitch line. So I'm going to get that out of the way. We're going to use the pen tool, and we are going to draw a line. I want my line to be a little bit shorter. And we are going to duplicate that, and how I'm duplicating it is I am pressing that line while holding down the Option key, and then I'm going to let go. Well, I'm going to release my finger from the mouse pad and then the Option key, and it has been duplicated. I'm going to highlight both, go to Stroke, and select dashed line, and my dash is 6 point, and I left everything else blank. I think that's a good size. Okay, and then I'm going to highlight everything again. We are going to drag it into brushes, pattern brush. Okay. Double stitch line. Spell stitch wrong. Double stitch line. Okay. Method, colorization method, we are going to go with hue shift, and I'm going to click the eyedropper tool and OK. And to test it out, okay, and then we are going to click it and try and change the color, and the color changes. So this line is super thick. but that can be adjusted. Okay, so to do the stitch lines, we are going to, let me make sure when you're on layers, you're on the right layer. So I am just going to select this inside line. You might have to quadruple click that line to get to it. I'm going to copy, go back to the right layer, then I'm going to Command F, and then I am going to go to brushes and click the brush that you want and adjust the stroke. You might have to go in and make your own little number. Yeah, we're gonna go with 10. Yes, ma'am. Okay, and now we're just gonna do that to everything. So now we are going to go into even more detail and we are going to add shading. So we're going to make a new layer and name it shading. When you're doing shading on swimsuits, more than likely it is tight to the body, so you won't have to do these lines here, just because when you put it on, it's going to stretch the fabric out. But if you have like a t-shirt, you'll probably use lines like these. But since it's close to the body, the shading, you're just going to shade rather than make style lines. So to do that, we are going to grab the pencil tool. That is not the pencil tool, it's the shortcut key in, but it's right there, right here, and you have other options, but we are going to use the pencil tool. And looking at this swimsuit, I'm just going to make my shading kind of mirror this and then come down for the crotch. And maybe right here where the waist is. And we are going to reverse. So your fill will be a color and your stroke will be none. I'm going to make my fill black. And just use the pencil tool like you're using a real pencil. Are we on the correct layer? Okay. And you'll be able to come back and clean it up. And then you're going to go to transparency and bring it down to maybe 13 or 14. So yeah, that's about good. I'm just gonna clean that up a bit and make it more round. Okay, and then back to in, and we're going to do the crotch. Okay, and I'm just gonna press E for the eyedropper tool and just select on the last shading that we had, okay, or the last shading that we did, And then I'm just going to really, when you do shading, it's kind of just like playing with it and seeing if it makes sense. After you're done with the shading, come back around and group. Okay. And now we're pretty much done with the front. Now, once you finish the front, we are going to copy the reference photo, your croquis photo, and the front of your swimsuit. Copy all of that, and then we're going to make a new layer, and we're going to title it the back. Once you do that, remove the visibility from all other layers, and on your back layer, paste everything that you copied. Now we could get to business. Once you do that, we're kind of going to cheat on the back because if you want it to be symmetrical, or I'm not sure how to explain this. If you want the back to be the most symmetrical to the front, so what I mean by that is like the underarm or the leg openings and the waist to match up, and the shoulder straps to match up, because it just makes more sense for it to match up. To me, like if you're doing a line sheet or you're sending a sketch to someone, it should just all make sense and be proportionate to eliminate most confusion. So we're just going to cheat a little bit and use the front. We are going to ungroup everything. Okay. And we are going to, with your selection tool, we are going to move, oops, I forgot we ungrouped everything. Just group the swimsuit back together and place it about right there. Okay, so it looks super weird, but we're gonna fix it. Now, click the swimsuit again, and you can ungroup everything. So here we are going to eliminate everything that says this is the front of a swimsuit. Okay. We're going to start with the bottom because that's easier. We could remove these and just delete it. Okay, so for the top piece of it, direct selection tool, And we're just going to collect that whole top piece, copy it, paste it, Control V. Okay, and now we are going to delete that because the back is a little bit different. So we're going to make a square. Select A, and that's about good. Come back to pen, and then let's see. So we are going to select each point that we want to copy. And when you do that, you just hold down the Shift key and select all the anchor points that you want to copy. Control C. We're just going to Control V. Go back to the black arrow, the selection tool. Just going to move that over. Object, transform, reflect. Make sure it's vertical and okay. And then we're going to place it about here. Okay, so after you reflected and perfected your right side, now we are going to make the bindings, and that's just here, the underarm and the inside of the back and the other side with the direct selection tool. We are going to select all the anchor points that we want, copy, Command C, Command F, then clean it up a bit. Then go back to V, your black arrow, direct selection tool, and make that a little bit bigger. Is that about there? And then just clean it up. Okay, and we're also going to change the stroke of this. And here you have it, the front and back of the swimsuit with the print inside of it, stitch lines, style lines, and shading. If you like the video, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. I know this is probably going to be a very long video, but if you stuck around this long,
you smart. I appreciate you.